Well, hello again. Today's adventure is going to be servicing the Ringfield motor in this old Hornby Dublo Cardiff castle. I recently did a restore of the external paintwork on this thing, put a new decal on, and just touched up all the chips and everything that was on the paintwork. I did actually video that, and in the description below I'll put a link to a video of me doing that if you're interested. It's in my other YouTube channel where I play guitar and things, and I did a video there of me doing what I would call a sympathetic restore of this. But when I did that, I did not service it, and I was actually astonished to see it actually working, because when this was put away in 1979, 1980 I think it was, it didn't work, and I serviced it then. I remember cleaning it all out and servicing the motor, and it was just completely dead. Didn't do anything, and I kind of assumed. I actually remember smoke coming out of the cab, and I just kind of assumed, well, it's dead. It needs a new armature or something, So it got boxed and put away, and then when I took it out to restore it, miraculously it was working, and it's worked perfectly since. But this has not been serviced in over 40 years, so I think it's well overdue one. I think it's a testament to the build quality of Hornby, Triang, Dublo, Meccano, whatever it was in these days. Okay, let's open this up and give it the long-awaited service. So first of all, we shall remove the tender. I have to say, these old locomotives are an absolute joy to work on compared to the modern ones, because everything's nice and easily accessed. Screws are a good size. They're built to last and built to be serviced. They've been designed with servicing in mind. So front bogie off, tender off. There are two small screws there and one screw there to come off. I have opened this up many times in my lifetime, but I have to be honest, when I was younger, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. I used to take them to bits and clean them, oil them, clean the commutator and clean the brushes, and that would be about it. And I mean, that's really all you need to do for a service, so it's fine. But beyond that, as was the case with this locomotive, if it still didn't work, I was kind of stumped. But now I know how to test armatures and things, so if it doesn't work, I don't give up. Things can always be fixed. So it says Meccano Limited, made in England, type EDLT20, Hornby Dublo. Beautifully made, these things, they really were. So that is the old Hornby Dublo Ringfield motor. It's a nice motor, but we'll get it out so we can have a proper look at it. If I can remember how. Yeah, there's a screw underneath between the rear wheels. We'll undo that. I do remember actually one time I put this back together and it wouldn't work. And the reason it wouldn't work was because I had the wrong screw in there, and it wasn't clamping the motor down onto the chassis correctly, and the worm gear wasn't engaging with the cog there. And make sure you get the right screw in the right hole. So there we go, there's the motor, obviously attached with the live wire to the contact in the chassis. I could disconnect all that. Actually no, there's no point in going into there. That's all nice and clean. If it was full of gunk, I would maybe open this up to clean it out, but it's perfectly clean. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm a great believer in leaving things alone if they don't need attention. But what I want to do is to open this up and have a look to see what state the commutator is in, see what state the brushes are in, and potentially grease up the bearings So we've got 4 screws that basically hold this together. There's a brush there and a brush there, and they're held in place with these spring clips. So it's a nice, clean, simple design, obviously quite large, which is why the motor sticks out into the cab, but it's a really nice, clean, simple design. And remarkably quiet as well. I mean, as most Ringfield motors are quiet, but you know, this is a lovely motor. So I think what I'm going to do actually before I undo those screws is I'm going to take the brushes out. So we just undo that clip there, and the brush should just fall out like so. And there's plenty left. There's a little groove on one end, and that end makes contact with the commutator, and there's plenty of life left in that. And we'll take this one out as well. Just pop the spring, and it should just pop out. If it doesn't come out, it tells you it's dirty, but these are nice and clean. So there's maybe not an awful lot of work to do in this, to be honest. Because I say I did, you know, service it, but it didn't work, so it got put in a box and it wasn't used. So I guess there's no reason for it to be dirty. Okay, so loosened off these screws, remove them. Okay, so with those screws removed, this should just now pop out, revealing the commutator, the armature, and the magnet. Which, given that this hasn't been looked at in over 40 years, is remarkably clean. So I need to mark the polarity of the magnet. I would normally use a marker pen, but I don't know what I've done with it. It'll be somewhere. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this masking tape just down like that, so I know which way to put the magnet back. If we look at this armature, it's very clean. Yeah, all in excellent condition. But we shall give the commutator a polish anyway. And looking at this, there is some carbon deposit in there, but not an awful lot. So we shall give it a brush out. I'm just going to use a cotton bud just to give this a clean. You can see it does collect a lot of crap. Right, this part does look a little bit dirtier. Yeah, it is. It's got a clean cotton bud. This is where all the dirt is. We can take this bearing out actually if I get some sort of a spanner or pliers. Right, just clean the gunk off the end. These, and just make sure there's no crap in the worm gear. That is pretty clean. Right, okay, fiberglass pencil, and we shall clean up this commutator, which is a little bit scratched actually, but not bad. When my father used to service these, he used sandpaper. It worked, but you know, you probably are going to scratch the commutator a bit in using sandpaper. My dad was a smoker, and I remember him cleaning commutators with a matchbox. Yeah. Didn't have these things in those days. Okay, okay. Right. And that really is all there is to it. I'm going to put this back together now with a bit of oil, and it should work. Need to get some oil, and we'll pop some oil on this gear. Just a few wee spots on the top and it will work in. I'm going to put a spot of oil in the bearing at that end. There we go. Just a spot. And I'm going to put a spot on the bearing there, and then some in that felt reservoir. A reasonable dollop in there of oil actually. And then we can put this back together. So that's the top of the motor. Put the magnet in the correct way around. Take that tape off now. Okay, magnet in position. It's tempting to put the armature in now, but you are actually better to fit this bearing into this piece here first, and then put this bit in, because it's harder to line up this end of the armature with that bearing, because the armature will get grabbed by the magnet. So it's easier to fit that way and then insert to line up with that bearing. Then put that in and try and line that up with that end of the armature. So put that in there, hold that in place, and use gravity to keep the armature in place as well, and then just feed that down. There we go. It can be a little bit of a fiddle to make sure you've got that armature sitting in the bearings correctly. So while we've got that in, we'll get the screws in there. Wouldn't it be funny if now that I've given this a service, it didn't work anymore? Let's not think that way. Because the only reason I can think why this stopped working and refused to work and then magically worked 40 years later is that there's a broken wire or something. It's perfectly possible this thing just won't work anymore. Right, okay, we shall stick this back on and make sure we use the right screw. Like so, and then we'll pop the brushes back in. I'm going to give the brushes a little bit of a clean at the contact end, just with the fiberglass pencil. Yeah. And then the spring just holds that in place, like so. And the spring has come off, and then it goes round like that. That's it. Pop that out just now. Pop the brush in and put the spring back. Job done. So I'm going to give the wheels and everything else a bit of an oil. That's my mental wee dug. So just a wee spot of oil and all the linkages, just to give it a bit of help. That must be the postie coming. She goes mental at the postie. So that is my Hornby Dublo Ringfield motor service on the old Cardiff Castle. Hopefully it works. Let's go and find out. Okay, power on. And off she goes. So it works, and just have to put this back together now. Just watch the live wire, and it should just slide on. Okay, I've got my, keeping all my screws right. So this big brass screw goes down in there. These two little screws hold it in place here. So I'm using a nice soft mat to work on because I don't want to damage the paintwork on this thing. It's not plastic, it is painted die-cast metal, so it will scratch and chip quite easily. And then put tinder on. And there we go. That's my Hornby Dublo Cardiff Castle from 1960 odd. Serviced and running as good as it ever has done, and will probably last easily another 50 odd years. They built these to last. See you later, folks.